Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. Today we're re-diving into the story of a woman who was less about ball gowns and more about bandages. A true rock star of the 19th century who swapped high society parties for hospital wards. Get ready to meet the one, the only, Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp and a will of solid iron. Let's rewind the clock to 1820. Picture this, a grand estate in England, birds chirping, and two little girls. One, my lovely sister Parthenope, was likely sketching out her dream wedding dress and planning which duke she'd charm at the next ball. And then there was me, my dreams. Well, they were a bit different. They were filled with the glorious sounds of, well, bandaging wounds. Yes, you heard that right. While other girls were hosting tea parties for their dolls, I was running a full-blown emergency room. My dolls weren't princesses. They were patients. One had a tragic case of a broken porcelain leg, another a severe bout of cotton stuffing-itis. My poor parents were, to put it mildly, horrified. They'd walk in to find me meticulously wrapping a doll's head, whispering, "There, Penelope, the fever will break soon." I'm sure they thought, where did we go wrong? Little did they know, this wasn't a phase, it was a preview. My childhood was essentially a boot camp for a calling I didn't even know I had yet. Every scraped knee in the neighborhood was a code-red emergency, and I was the first responder, armed with a piece of cloth and more confidence than a seasoned surgeon. As I grew older, the pressure to conform was immense. Debutante balls, finding a suitable husband, managing a household that was the expected path for a woman of my standing. But inside me, a different voice was growing louder. It wasn't whispering about waltzes or wedding bells. One day, it was as clear as a bell, a moment of profound certainty. The voice said, "Florence, your destiny is to heal. This is your purpose." I knew I couldn't keep it to myself. I had to tell my mother. So, with my heart pounding, I found her in the drawing room and said, "Mother, I believe I have received a calling from God. I am to become a nurse." Oh, the silence that followed was deafening. Then came the explosion. "A nurse," she shrieked, looking as if I'd just announced my intention to join the circus. "Florence, have you lost your mind? Nursing is for servants, for the lowest class of women. It's not a respectable profession for a lady." I stood my ground. The fire that had been smoldering inside me finally ignited. I looked her right in the eye and replied, "Well then, perhaps it's about time we change that." That was it. Rebellion mode was officially activated. I might as well have put on an apron and a pair of battle-ready glasses right then and there. My family saw it as a disgrace, a rebellion against everything they stood for. I saw it as the first step toward my true life's work. The battle had begun, and I was not going to surrender. My family, bless their hearts, did everything they could to cure me of my nursing obsession. They took me on lavish trips across Europe, hoping the magnificent art of Rome or the elegant salons of Paris would distract me. It didn't work. While they saw art, I saw architecture that could be adapted for hospitals. While they socialized, I was secretly devouring books on medicine, public health, and sanitation. I became a student of the unseen world. I studied statistics, hospital administration, and the radical, almost mythical, concept of cleanliness. Yes, friends, I was the original hygiene maniac in an era that thought germs were a fairy tale. You have to understand, back then, the idea of washing your hands was optional. Some doctors believed they only needed to wash their hands once a month. They thought germs were something mothers made up to scare children into eating their vegetables. Can you imagine a surgeon today walking into an operating room, sneezing into their hands, and then just getting to work? The very thought would give me shivers. I envisioned myself in that scenario, holding up a giant basin of soapy water and yelling to the shower, "Doctor, and don't come out until you've scrubbed every last one of those imaginary germs away." I was convinced that soap and water were more powerful than any potion or elixir, and I was determined to prove it. Then, in 1853, the Crimean War broke out. Soldiers were being shipped off to fight, and news quickly trickled back of the horrific conditions they faced. For most people, this was a tragedy to be read about in the newspaper from the comfort of their homes. For me, it was a call to action. I thought, perfect. This is it. Let's go save some lives. After a bit of political maneuvering and pushing back against the Old Boys Club of Military Medicine, I was granted permission to lead a team of 38 nurses to the front lines. When we arrived at the military hospital in Scutari, Turkey, the reality was worse than any report could have described. Hospital was a generous term. It was more like a filthy, overcrowded attic of death. The stench was unbearable. Men lay on the floor in their own filth, rats scurried freely, and infection was more deadly than any enemy bullet. It was pure chaos. I knew there was no time to waste. I took my lamp, a symbol of hope in that darkness, and got to work. We scrubbed the floors, washed the linens, and brought in clean supplies. I established a kitchen to cook nutritious food and a laundry to provide clean bedding. We organized the entire facility, bringing order to the chaos. But my work didn't stop when the sun went down. Every night, I would walk the miles of corridors, lamp in hand, checking on every single wounded man. I'd offer a word of comfort, adjust a pillow, or simply provide a quiet presence. The soldiers, seeing this beacon of light moving through the darkness, started calling me the lady with the lamp. It became a symbol not just of my nightly rounds, but of a new, compassionate standard of care. I even made checklists. You can just imagine me, clipboard in hand, soldiers scrambling to hide their muddy boots under their cots. Order and cleanliness were my new weapons in this war. When the war finally ended, I didn't return to England seeking parades or praise. I came back armed with something far more powerful: data. During my time in Crimea, I hadn't just been nursing. I had been collecting information, meticulously recording everything from mortality rates to the causes of death. I returned with notebooks overflowing with statistics, charts, and graphs. You see, I wasn't just a nurse. I was a scientist, a data geek. I used this data to create revolutionary diagrams like the polar area chart to show a very simple, shocking truth. Most soldiers weren't dying from their battle wounds. They were dying from preventable diseases like typhus, cholera, and dysentery, all caused by the unsanitary conditions in the hospitals. My numbers proved unequivocally that hygiene saves more lives than weapons. I presented my findings to the government and military officials. At first, they were skeptical. A woman talking about statistics and sanitation reform. Unheard of. But numbers don't lie. They couldn't argue with the cold, hard facts. So, after a few years, a lot of persistent campaigning, and I'm sure many, many cups of tea, they finally listened. My data led to a complete overhaul of the military healthcare system and influenced hospital design for decades to come. I love to picture myself after a particularly grueling meeting, raising my teacup like a trophy. Checkmate, my mission wasn't over. Saving lives on the battlefield was just the beginning. The real, lasting change had to come from education. I used the funds raised in my honour to establish the Nightingale Training School for Nurses at St Thomas' Hospital in London in 1860. It was the first secular nursing school in the world. A place where nursing was treated as a true profession based on scientific principles and rigorous training. I wrote books, like Notes on Nursing, which became a foundational text for the profession. I trained generations of women, turning nursing from a low-status job into a respected and vital career. My students went on to establish training schools all over the globe, spreading my philosophy of care, compassion, and cleanliness. And today, when I imagine looking out and seeing all the dedicated students in their crisp white coats or scrubs, the brilliant nurses and healthcare professionals working tirelessly in hospitals everywhere, a deep sense of peace fills me. Mission accomplished, dear Florence, I'd whisper to myself. To all of you out there, the future nurses, the caregivers, the healers, keep your own lamp shining bright. It doesn't have to be an oil lamp from the 1850s. It can be the flashlight on your phone during a night shift, the warm smile you offer a scared patient, or the data you use to make things better. Never lose that light. Because in the end, what I learned, and what I hope you take away from my story, is that caring isn't just a job. It's a profound act of love, an expression of courage, and yes, sometimes it requires a little bit of beautiful, revolutionary madness. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into history. Until next time, stay curious.